We've got about 12 notebooks floating around at home.
Good evening. Welcome to the Southbridge Town Council meeting on Monday, December 16th, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Counselor Adams.
Present.
Counselor Catrona.
Present.
Counselor Daniel.
Present.
Counselor Jovan.
Present.
Counselor Lazo.
Absent.
Counselor Manna.
Present.
Counselor Marquetti.
Present.
Counselor Nash.
Present.
Counselor Steves.
Present.
We do have a quorum. Item 3A, consider and accept the Town Council minutes of Monday, December 9th, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Councilor Steves.
Yeah, I had one quick addition under item number 7, the very end, where it says I asked for a bunch of things. I just wanted to clarify that what Will said, it's probably a 50-50 split between individuals and LLCs. That's specifically for buildings under 8 apartments. Almost all above were corporations.
I honestly, Councilor, I don't think they heard you and I couldn't hear you.
Okay, sorry. I was just, under item number 7, the very last paragraph, I just wanted to clarify that Will, answering my question, said that it's probably a 50-50 split between individuals and LLCs for buildings under 8 apartments. Almost all of the above were corporations.
So the addition is for buildings under
Yes.
8 apartments, okay.
Yes. And I think that was it.
Okay. Councilor Marquetti?
Under agenda item 9, towards the bottom, where it talks about what I was speaking to, I said the average mom and pop business is around 205,000, and a 30% shift to them wouldn't increase their taxes significantly.
Correct.
It says 0% on the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Without objection? Okay. Any other errors, corrections? Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. On the third page, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph down, and it should be a second line where it says property values work and why their neighborhood, they are neighbors, their neighbors. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other corrections? Councilor Manna?
I don't have any corrections, but I'll be abstaining.
Thank you. See no further corrections? All those in favor? As amended? Opposed? And 1 abstention. Motion carries. Consider and accept the special town council minutes of Thursday, November 21st, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Errors, corrections, omissions. Councilor Steves.
I did give Mary a quick paragraph adding to the discussion because I asked a bunch of questions on item number 4. So I already gave her a paragraph for that,
Okay.
and that's all I had.
Are there substantive changes or just?
It was just a paragraph because I'd asked a bunch of questions about some specific things, and I gave her the text. I remember specifically that there were like specific sections of the contract, just for clarification mostly.
Okay.
So,
Councilor Manna?
I'll be abstaining from this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nash? Same. Any further corrections, omissions? All those in favor as amended? Opposed? Abstained? 2 abstentions. Motion carries. Agenda item 4, subcommittee reports. General Government. Councilor Steves.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had an extensive meeting on December 11th. Several of the items are on our agenda coming up this evening. We also started discussion of the Wetlands Protection and Conservation Bylaw, and I think everything else is on our agenda. So,
Thank you.
oh, and I do not have one scheduled at the moment.
Thank you. Department of Public Works. Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, we had a Department of Public Works subcommittee meeting this evening, actually. The results of the agenda items will be discussed tonight because same agenda items are on the full council agenda. Their numbers 18, 25, and 31. Thank you. No meetings planned at this time.
Thank you. Education and Human Services. Councilor Lazo. Councilor Lazo is absent this evening. There are a couple items that are on tonight's agenda that we can talk to at that time. Plan and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. We had a meeting on December 10th. Items number 34 through 36 are on this agenda this evening. We have not scheduled another meeting yet, as of yet. That's all I have.
Thank you. Protection of Persons and Property, Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank you for chairing the meeting from last week, and a happy belated birthday to you. He did that on his birthday. I don't have those minutes. Thank you, Mary. I know she took them. I haven't checked my email today to see if those were in there. But there are some agenda items on here from that meeting, I see, and I don't have any other meetings scheduled at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman's announcements. First off, had some discussion this evening with the DPW director in regards to a pothole issue on Route 131 going from the Southbridge town line into Southbridge. That's an extensive pothole. That is not maintained by the town of Southbridge. That is the Department of Transportation through the state. The director has informed me that they've reached out numerous times to the state to see if they could get that repaired with no resolution to that. I did reach out this evening to Representative Durant and Senator Fatman's office asking them to call me. Senator Fatman gave me a quick response and will contact me tomorrow, so we'll see if we can get that resolved because that pothole has just grown in size, so we'll work to get that fixed. The only other announcement, two other announcements. First, as we come to a close of 2019, in the first 6 months of this council, I'd like to thank all the councils for the hard work that you have all done and assisted me in moving our agenda forward. I think we've gotten a lot accomplished. We did a lot to work to the marijuana bylaws, host agreements, working to help the Airport Commission for membership this evening, working on grants for the fire department, and we continue to do so. So thank you for all the work that you all do every day. And I think we've had a successful 6 months and look forward to the next 6 months. We will have a meeting I had not anticipated on having a meeting, but due to some items that have come up, just to finish them up before the end of the year, we will have a meeting Thursday evening at 6 p.m. With about 4 agenda items, as well as an executive session. And with that, I want to wish all in Southbridge and the community a very happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. With that, I'll turn this over to the town manager for his announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just briefly myself, I also would like to express my appreciation to the town council for their support over the year. To all the boards and commissions that have done a great job for the town of Southbridge, has been really a lot of exemplary work has come from a lot of people that have given their time up to commit to help Southbridge improve. Most of all, though, I want to thank all my staff. We have a great team of employees, both through the department heads and the individual members of all the departments that do a great job on behalf of all the citizens of this town. I want to thank them for their hard work and for the support we get from our citizens. You know, often we look at ourselves, the people involved with the town, but we couldn't do it without the support of the citizens who provide funding for all the town activities. We appreciate their support of this town. And also I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, from the members of the council, the boards and commissions, to employees, and to the citizens of Southbridge. I just want to wish them the very best as we celebrate this holiday season. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, town manager?
No, just thank you.
Presentation, swearing in, we have none. Citizens Forum. Anyone from the audience that wishes to address the council? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Chief, you did. I forgot to write it down. The chief did have a presentation this evening. Welcome the chief. He wanted to make a special presentation to a resident on something.
Good evening, members of the council.
I apologize again, Chief. I apologize.
That's all right.
My sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for the time. Just real quick, on November 1st, 2019, around 9 o'clock in the morning, we got a report of a incident at a local convenience store where a male subject came in at around 9 and said that he needed some free food. The cashier who was working was a female. She refused the food. She said, "You have to pay for whatever you get here." The male had some obvious mental illness issues, we'll say, and he had said that he was going to come back and kill her if she didn't give him the food that he wanted. So he left. About 30 minutes later, so at about 9:30 in the morning, he returned to the store, proceeded to climb over the counter, started attacking the clerk, put his hands on her neck, started strangling her. Violent struggle ensued. At that point, Ms. Johnson, who's standing here behind me or to the side of me, was also working at this store. She stepped in, pushed this male subject off of her female coworker. The female coworker was able to run, lock herself in a back room. Male subject then fled the area. Not only was Ms. Johnson able to save the day before we could get there, she also called 911 and provided an exact description of this male suspect, so we apprehended him within 100 yards of that store. So although Ms. Johnson did not want to come here tonight, I wanted her to come here and be recognized because in policing, and I just gave out one of these awards on Saturday night, we have a Medal of Merit, which is only awarded to officers who in the line of duty heroically reflect only the highest traditions of law enforcement service in the profession they represent. Mary is not a police officer, so I'm here tonight to honor her with an Outstanding Citizen Award, which is the civilian equivalent of the Medal of Merit for a police officer. So tonight, the Southbridge Police Department wishes to express its gratitude and appreciation for your actions on November 1st, 2019, when you risked your life and personal injury in rendering aid to a fellow employee. You have exemplified the virtue of good citizenship, and your bravery is to be commended on this date, 16th day of December, tonight, by me. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Just want to say, on behalf of the Town Council, Ms. Johnson, we thank you for your actions on that day. It's not often that citizens want to get involved, so your willingness to get involved and potentially save the life of your fellow employees does not go unrecognized, and grateful for the police department to honor you today for those actions that many will just ignore. And I'm sure your colleagues are very grateful for your response. So on behalf of the town of Southbridge, I commend you and congratulate you on a well-done job. Congratulations. Citizens Forum. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to address the council? Anyone? All right, seeing none. We have a rather lengthy agenda. For having a meeting last week, we have a lot on the agenda. So in 1 week, a lot of work was done by our subcommittees. So again, thank you very much. Item 9, vote to confirm the appointment of John Silverberg of Sutton, Mass. to serve on the Airport Commission effective immediately through June 30th, 2021, to fill a vacancy due to a member resignation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very pleased to bring forward this appointment. John is a professional pilot with one of our major airlines, and I really want to compliment the Airport Commission and the Town Council for allowing this to go forward. This required a change in the bylaws to allow someone who doesn't live in Southbridge to be part of our Airport Commission. I think it was very clear that the members of this council and the Airport Commission felt that this is somewhat of a regional airport and that we wanted experience from people all around the area who have their planes at this airport. You bring a tremendous amount of experience to this board. We think you're going to be a tremendous asset. We appreciate your interest in this particular position. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to thank Mr. Silverberg for hanging in there. He's been dedicated to Southbridge over the last few years that I've known him. He wanted to be on the board. He wanted to be active. He did stay active by volunteering up at the airport, and he just believes in our town and our airport, and I want to thank him for that.
Mr. Clements, as the Airport Commission, do you want to come up and say a few words, introduce him or anything like that? Because I know not all members of the council were there at the meeting, so if you want to introduce him to the council.
Yes, thank you. Rick Clements, Chairman of the Southbridge Airport Commission. John's been at the airport longer than I have. I know he served on the board a number of years ago, worked with my father and some other folks many years ago. And he was in the town and unfortunately got caught up when they changed the bylaws. He couldn't stay on the commission. He's been active at the airport. He has 2 planes he brings in and out. He helps us a lot with the runway lights, also, with the snow blower and some of the equipment. He's always up there, helping us out. So I really think it'd be a great asset to the commission, bring out some outside insight into the airport, what we need to get more people to bring their planes to Southbridge. I think it's going to be a great asset for us. So I'd really like to have you vote for him tonight.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor
Just a
Steves.
quick clarification, that was on our last Gen Gov meeting, and it was unanimously approved.
Thank you, unanimous. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Congratulations and welcome aboard. Look forward to working with you. Thank you. Item 10, vote to confirm the appointment of Rosemary Alicia to the Trustees of Soldiers, Marines, Airmen Memorial Committee effective immediately through June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to first thank Councilor Adams for bringing forward this particular candidate. Rosemary is going to be a tremendous asset. She currently works for the Office of Veteran Affairs. She has a tremendous amount of administrative skills. We think she's going to be a very valuable member to this board, and are looking forward to working with her.
I was present at EHS, and this did go through with a favorable recommendation to council. Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just want to make an amendment to this. Right after trustees of soldiers, it should be soldiers, Marines, sailors, and Airmen Memorial Committee. I don't know if we have to do an amendment to that or just put it in there.
With unanimous
Got it.
consent, we'll just
All
add it
right.
in, because that is the legal name of it.
But I did, first of all, thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for the kind words, but I will say Rose did approach us. We were one person short. Of course, we started this committee last year when we found the bylaws, and it was, we have 3 veterans and 2 non-veterans, and she will make up the 5th member, which she is the non-veteran, but she's worked with veterans for quite some time, and though she's not here tonight, a lot of people knew her. We saw her at the meeting, and I highly recommend her for this position, and I look forward to seeing what the board comes up with here very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous for all present. Vote to confirm the appointment of Karen Seelig to the Council of Aging effective immediately through June 30th, 2021 to fill a vacancy due to resignation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Town Manager?
First, again, another great appointment. I'm very comfortable with Karen Seelig. She's owned her own business for 12 years before retiring. She currently still owns a small craft business. And more importantly, she's already involved in Meals on Wheels. If you know that program, it's a program that really helps people who are in great deal of need, not only for meal, but for a quick visit to say hello and show their concern for seniors. So I think she again will be someone who can help our Council on Aging a great deal and will be an asset to the community.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Just for clarification, I work with Meals on Wheels, so should I abstain from this in the next 2?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I didn't think it did either, but
Nope.
just thought I'd just point out just for the record that I work for the company.
No.
So.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous for all present. Vote to confirm the appointment of Kathleen Grenier to the Council of Aging effective immediately through June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Town Manager?
Again, another great asset to our community. She's a nutrition site coordinator for the Tri-Valley Meals on Wheels program. Again, somebody who deals with seniors on a regular basis, who understands their needs and their concerns. And again, I think she'll be a wonderful person for that council.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, I want to throw out there that a lot of these individuals that work for Meals on Wheels, and they are always looking for volunteers, especially on Monday. Just want to throw that out there before we make the vote.
Thank you. And this appointment, as well as those all the way through agenda item 16, were voted out favorably by the EHS subcommittee, just for the record. So I won't have to repeat myself on each one. So. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item 13, vote to confirm the appointment of Susan Prue to the Council of Aging effective immediately through June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Town Manager?
Another great asset to the community, an RN at Harrington Emergency Room for 40-plus years. So that shows her knowledge of of dealing with an aging community. Also a Meals on Wheels volunteer and a high school volunteer, just cares about this community and wants to give back to the community.
Council Steves.
Just one quick question. How many, does this fill up the Council on Aging?
I'm absolutely, I didn't check us, so I'm not absolutely sure. I'll check it tomorrow and send you a note.
Okay.
Any further? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 14, vote to confirm the appointment of Robert Caprera to local historic district study committee effective immediately through June 30th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Mr. Town Manager?
Sometimes the best way, I think, to introduce a person is just to say simply, this is a very good man, a man who cares a great deal about this community. He serves as one of the town attorneys, is a person that I've dealt with extensively throughout the years. I find him to be just someone who cares so much about this particular community. He has a private law practice since 1979 in town. He's been a resident since 1958, and will serve this committee very well.
Council Steve?
I agree that I think he'd be a good asset to this committee. I mean, he was on Bicentennial, sort of. He was sort of like an extra person on Bicentennial. He wasn't all that active. But I just want to check that, kind of on the record, that he really should double check with the Ethics Commission if there's any concerns. So, because he is our town attorney. So I think he would be good on it. He knows a lot. So I would support him, but provided he does that.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Town Manager?
I'd be happy to talk to Attorney Caprera about that. Like all people who serve on any board or commission, if a particular issue comes up that might be an ethical problem, there's very clear ethic laws of excusing yourself and stuff. So I think if anyone knows that, it would be Attorney Caprera.
I would think so.
So I'm very comfortable in this particular appointment, but I will pass it on to him.
Okay. I don't think it'll be an issue, just for the record. Just
For the
so that
record.
we know.
Yeah, appreciate it,
So
for the
it's-
record.
yeah.
Yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to confirm the appointment of James O'Brien to the local historic district study committee effective immediately through June 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. Town Manager.
So Jim gave me a long list. I had an opportunity to talk to him. A Bachelor of Arts degree in music performance at Amherst College. He's got a long list of all kinds of education as it relates and employment as it relates to the arts. I think he'll be a tremendous asset, someone, again, who cares about the community. He has served on the Bicentennial Committee, and again, I think he knows a lot about the history of the town and will make a great asset to this particular committee.
Further discussion? Okay. And he did serve on the Bicentennial Committee, which was great, as did Ms. Farland. And speaking to Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Brady about this local historic district study committee, I think it is important. We discussed this the other evening with Mr. O'Brien about we do have a lot of historical buildings in the downtown corridor, and it's important to preserve our history as best we can. So it's great that we do have these local individuals that have worked so hard on the history of Southbridge to continue that mission that we protect whatever we can moving forward. So thank you for that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 16, vote to confirm the appointment of Francine Farland as an alternate member to the local historic district study committee effective immediately through June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah, this is one of our town employees who's been involved in the history of our town for quite some time. Served as the secretary of the Bicentennial Committee, a group that, as everyone knows, did a great job in organizing events around our bicentennial. Again, I think she'll be a great asset to this particular committee.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 17, vote to accept the fiscal year 2020 Formula Council of Aging grant in the amount of $36,730.39 for the dates of service of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Any questions of it?
I'll
Mr. Town Manager?
I'll just comment saying this is an annual grant. I would thank our Community Services Director, Mike Trombley, who's in the room. I want to thank him for his work on this particular grant, and it goes a long way to helping the seniors in our community. This is essentially what funds a lot of the activities that happen at our senior center.
And with that, I just want to echo the conversation that we had at council subcommittee meeting, that this formula is derived by the Census Bureau, number of seniors that we have, according to the United States Census, which occurred in 2010. The next census is this year, coming up, 2020, so it's important. Anybody out there, please answer your census, because this is one of the items that we rely on data to obtain funding through many grants, federal and local grants. So it's very important that when you get that census, not to just, throw it into the dumpster or not answer the census. Make sure you answer it. If you need any assistance, there is going to be programs set up, I believe, in the library, at the senior center. We'll get those dates out to you. We'll try to get them out on the website and push those things out. But it is important that you answer the census and get that data in to us for these important programs. Because sometimes I think when we had the young lady come before council, or when we met with her, I think it was on average maybe $2,000 per individual, I think it was, possibly throughout the census, not just for this grant, but many grants in the funding formulas. Council Steves, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add that you mentioned the census thing, and for those who are interested, there is a program
mic isn't working,
there's
right?
a program on the census at Jacob Edwards Library this Thursday evening.
Thursday evening?
Thursday evening.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Thank you, Mike. Item 18, vote to accept the MIIA grant for the purchase of safety equipment for the Department of Public Works and the Fire Department, totaling $9,461. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Town Manager.
I was going to say, if the chairman, does the chairman of the subcommittee want to talk about this? Okay. So this grant, okay. I want to first thank our foreman, operations manager, I think is the appropriate title, Mark Denault, who actually came up through a course that he took. He learned about this grant, and he worked with our fire chief and our deputy fire chief to bring this grant forward. It's obviously for safety equipment, both for DPW and for the fire department, and I think it's a nice asset for them to provide equipment that's needed in both departments.
Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Just a couple of quick notes. We did discuss this tonight at DPW Subcommittee. Favorable recommendation was unanimous, of course. And I'll just point out that some of the items that are listed within the grant, should this be accepted, include PPE for fire department, for Department of Public Works, and then backup cameras for a couple of pumpers for the fire department. Director Blakely and Deputy Chief Joe Hulick went through some of these items and explained it rather well and concisely, which was obviously appreciated. Thank you.
And again, just like to thank the DPW director and her staff for reaching out to obtain these grants for items that ensure that they don't go on the town's dollar, that their grant money is out there. So it's always great to, $10,000 is a good amount of money that can go to something else. So thank you for that hard work in seeking out grants. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 19, vote to approve the transfer of $2,105 from the insurance premium schools account number 094-000-574000-0300 to the insurance property account number 094-000-574000-0000 to cover payment for an MIIA invoice. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Council Steves.
That came up on the last GenGov meeting. Treasurer Ozowski mentioned that this is typically, that we typically pay the property and liability bills at the start of the fiscal year, but get some new vehicles and then sometimes property changes over the course of the year. So this is basically to cover those things that come on and off the list. This is enough to cover this bill, but not the rest of the year. So if we might end up having to see a transfer coming forward.
Any further discussion?
It was approved unanimously, by the way.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 20, vote to approve the transfer of $82 from the treasurer collector dues subscription number 001145-573000 to the treasurer collector's mileage in-state travel account number 001145-571000 to reimburse mileage expenses incurred in August of 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Steves?
That was also unanimously approved at GenGov. It's just simply for mileages to their conference in UMass.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do apologize if I wasn't able to make any meeting, but I wonder about the differences in the mileages between the two receipts.
Council Steves?
Yeah, Melissa said that that's
Council
because...
Steves,
Sorry.
give it a second to kick in, because I don't think
Okay.
it's kicking in.
Melissa said that that's because of the fact that Melissa actually came in from home to here one way, whereas Nee went both ways.
Is that correct, Melissa? Anything else? That's correct, right?
Thank you.
Did actually look up the mileage, and Nee took the fast route on Route 90, and I took Route 20.
Okay.
Significant difference in mileage.
All right.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 21, vote to approve the transfer of $23,310 from police salaries number 001210.511000 to Central Dispatch Project number 84240 to cover additional project costs. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Anybody? I chaired the PPP subcommittee. Thank the two chiefs for being present for that discussion on the dispatch project. Thank Chief Woodson for his detailed explanation in the packet. I think he outlined it, and he did reiterate those items in the meeting. And hopefully this will be enough to at least get this operational by July 1 of 2020. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to approve the transfer of $10,000 from police salaries number 001210.511000 to safety patrol supplies number 001210.550300. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Okay, again, this came before PP Subcommittee, approved favorably. The chief did outline it. Does a lot of training with firearms, auxiliary police officers, and taser units, and we discussed the cost of just the taser training alone and the supplies to supply new batteries. It's great that police department does, and I know the chief is very strong on training, so we appreciate that. So it was voted out favorably. Councilor Marquetti?
Just like to point out that these are transfers from the police salaries.
Correct, yes.
Right,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, and we did have a discussion. Thank you, Councilor Marquetti. The transfers, why they're coming out of salaries, just for the public, is that the chief has made it very clear that we had appropriated, this council had appropriated police officer positions. They've been vetted through the police department and have been appointed by the council pending the academy. Unfortunately, the academy doesn't start till February 24th, Chief.
Correct.
And therefore, there is the money that we had budgeted in those accounts. So it's not, it's something that we have to watch for next year because those salaries will be there next year. So it's just money within his budget. Thank you. Councilor Steves?
Yeah, I have a quick question specifically regarding tasers. I probably could have, if I had been at the subcommittee, I would have asked this then, but I wasn't there. You might remember recently on NPR there was an extensive show talking about the issue with tasers, and I was just curious, A, how often you've had to use them, and B, if you've had any of the issues that the NPR show was talking about them not working properly.
If I could, through you, Mr. Chair, none. It's a great tool. We deploy them, unfortunately, often, but only when we have to. We had an incident a couple nights ago where we deployed one rather than shoot and kill somebody. So it's a great tool, and it's working for our department. This year, there's been a spike in that use. I can't tell you why, but taser cartridges cost a lot of money, batteries cost money, ammunition cost money. Ammunition price just went up, so I'm anticipating a fall qualification and a spring qualification, so this transfer will cover all that.
And then you're talking about, when you're referring to ammunition, you're referring to bullets as opposed to
I
taser.
can't,
You're referring to bullets as opposed to taser cartridges or whatever. Just a clarification, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, he did refer that, but that was part of the conversation, was the tasers within that conversation. So it was ammunition for the department,
Yeah.
but he does anticipate that there's batteries that go with
Well,
taser
I
units
heard
that have
that
to
part,
be,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, we had some issues with qualifications this year with some newer auxiliaries and things like that. The more ammunition you use, the more expensive it gets. So this will absolutely get us through to June 30th.
Any further questions to the chief? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 23, vote to approve the transfer of $5,000 from police salaries number 001210.511000 to dues subscriptions periodicals number 001210.573000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right. Seeing none. It was very gracious to hear that the police department is moving to accreditations. Thank you for that update, Chief. We appreciate it. All the hard work does a very long process, but thank you for working towards that goal. Commend you for that. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 24. Vote to approve the transfer of $5,000 from police salaries number 001210.511000 to prisoner maintenance number 001210.558200. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Chief? Council Steve, you have a question, Chief?
If I could quickly, Mr. Jovan, I'm excited to talk about this one tonight. Mr. Como from the School Maintenance Department brought this program to my attention, the Work Experience Program that right now is being, they're utilizing the basement, the old wood shop for all the old schools, Southbridge High kids like myself. That is now a learning environment, a learning program where they take kids between the ages of 18 and 22 years old and they try to give them real-life job experience. Mr. Como had called me and he inquired as to how we clean our prisoner blankets, which is a good question, because we spend, give or take between $3,000 and $4,000 a year on having our blankets dry cleaned. Unfortunately, that can get pretty expensive, so Mr. Como suggested that we buy a commercial grade washer dryer that could handle washing these flame retardant blankets. Obviously, anything that's soiled with any type of body contaminants, we would send that out for dry cleaning by a professional, but the kids in this program, in the WEP program, would come to our building, pick up our blankets, bring them to the basement at the old high school, wash, dry, fold, bring them back to us, take all of our old stuff. They'll probably do that on a weekly basis, and after a year and a half or so, this will have paid for itself, because rather than paying the $3,000 to $4,000 a year for blankets, all we'll be paying for is detergent. So I think it's a great idea. It keeps the kids in the community working, gives them some real-life experience, and I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Okay. Council Steves?
Yeah, I was curious, would this device be able to be used for other functions in town, other than just you guys?
Councilor Steves, right now, I only intend on it being used for prisoner blankets. I don't know if you'd want to wash anything else in that washer or dryer.
Well, one thing that kind of jumps out to me is maybe DPW clothing and stuff like that would be possibly similarly contaminated or whatever with oil or whatever. I don't know if it would be too serious for this kind of a machine, but.
Well, I spoke with Mr. Como about possibly rags, reusable rags and things like that might be more appropriate. I don't know if I'd wash clothes in the same machine that you're washing prisoner blankets in. It's just me. But rags and reusable things, yes, we would entertain that.
No.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present.
Thank you.
Chief, before you leave, I do want to, I know I do joke around with you about
You
the
do often.
dispatch center, but I do want to thank you and the department, as well as the DPW and the fire chief for all the hard work on the dispatch center. I know we have a little running joke about that, but it has been a long, complicated project, and I know you've had a lot of roadblocks along the way, and I commend you and your staff and everybody that's working hard to get that up and running. So thank you on that.
Thank you.
And-
July of 2022, I'm thinking.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 25, vote to approve the transfer of $31,115.94 from Water Capital Reserves, account number 610450.583000.91250, to Water System Capital, account number 610450.583000.20580, to cover costs associated with the water main break which occurred on Goddard Street and related environmental cleanup for the three companies, CMG Environmental, in the amount of $16,440.21. R.H. White in the amount of $7,275.73, and Hydrotech in the amount of $7,400. Is there a motion?
Second.
You want to go first, Council Nash? Mr. Town Manager?
So I'm going to try to save our DPW director her voice since she's been very sick. I appreciate firstly she's here. I want to compliment, this is obviously in relationship to a water main break that we had on Goddard Street. I believe it actually happened on a Saturday. The DPW director immediately called me on this issue and dealt with it immediately. There was some concern is when they went to fix the water main break, they found some contaminated soil. As the town council knows, we've had this in subcommittees, a lot of discussion about the actions that the town had to take in order to remove this soil. This is the cost of that particular project. It's all being paid for, obviously, through the Water Enterprise Fund. I really want to commend DPW staff and the vendors she got involved to deal with this as quickly as they did. I think it was handled very appropriately. She kept the town council and I informed every step of the way throughout this process. And if there's any questions, we can ask the DPW director. But again, I was trying to save a little bit on her ability to speak.
Council Nash, you have anything else to add as DPW?
Sure, thank you. Just really quickly, obviously, this went through with unanimous favorable recommendation. And just for clarification, for those that don't have access to the invoices, the $16,441 from CMG Environmental accounted for the licensed site professional, other engineering type staff, and then also for the contaminated soil removal. R.H. White for labor and contractual work, and Hydrotech for the leak repair. Correct, Heather? On the bypass, thank you. Okay,
Anything further?
thank you.
Council Marquetti?
And just like to point out that Mass DEP is still investigating the oil leak. Thank you.
You stated that Mass DEP is still investigating the matter, and
My
no
mic-
report yet.
Is this working?
It was very difficult to hear you, so I don't know. Sometimes it takes a minute.
I'm talking
You have
right
to-
into it.
A second, but
Thank you.
thank you, Council. Anything further? I do know, just for the public and for the councils, we did discuss the issue with the microphones at our last meeting, at one of the meetings. I'm not sure which one it was. And they are going to be working on a solution with a transfer for capital coming up. I don't know, it might even be on Thursday night's meeting, where they're going to put speakers adjacent to us right here so that we can hear, even though the microphones are going out to the people in the public and possibly to the audience, it's not reflected here, so they're going to do something with speakers coming up, and that will be forthcoming pretty soon. So we look forward to that, because it does get difficult at times that we think we're talking into the mic and you just can't hear. All right, is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. I'm going to call for a roll call on this because it's capital expenditure, so let's go with a roll call, please.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo? Oh, sorry. Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Nash?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous, all present. Item 26, vote to accept a donation from Hyde Dexter Russell Charitable Foundation in the amount of $2,500 to be used for the Southbridge Holiday Visions Program. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Council Steves?
Yeah, that came up at the that and the next two items came up as part of of Gen Gov, the last meeting. And this is a situation where the Hyde Dexter Russell Foundation has donated to Holiday Visions a couple of times over the last several years, and they basically helped fund it pretty much going forward. So this is in the other two that came up kind of came up at the last minute, literally with a handwritten note to us in it. They were going to do it, which is great. It's always nice to hear people come forward and be able to donate to events in the community. And so thank you very much for doing that, because it's nice to see people out there supporting these kinds of efforts. It was unanimous. Oh, so it was a vote approved unanimously with Denise abstaining. So
Right. Council Marquetti?
I'm not opposed to this. I was just curious, why are we voting on this? I mean, this is money going to the Holiday Visions. I'm not opposed to it. I just was curious.
I'll let the town manager, but my understanding is We do have an account set up by the town that disperses those funds, so we're a pass-through. So any donation
Okay.
that comes to the town,
All right.
and that form has to be accepted by council and
Thank
then
you.
dispersed by that group. Am I correct, Mr. Manager?
correct.
Yep. And again, I'd like to echo, I'd like to thank, I believe this is the fifth generation of the families, and Clements Rawls families approved this donation. So we thank them for making those donations. And a lot of times, I know Ms. Clements says that she doesn't participate in her children's desire to give, and it's really there. And they give to a lot of different, that foundation gives out to a lot of different organizations, not just this. They really do a lot to benefit the town. We thank them for that. Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 27, vote to accept a donation from Karen Guy Dyer in the amount of $100 to be used for the Southbridge Holiday Visions Program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 28, vote to accept a donation from Village Photo in the amount of $50 to be used for the Southbridge Holiday Visions Program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 29, vote to approve amendment Schedule 5 to reflect the state's increase on minimum wage effective January 1st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Steves?
This was also at GenGov. It was approved unanimously. It affects a handful of the towns and of the town's jobs, library aides and other stuff like that, crossing guards and stuff like that. All of the budget lines currently, they do have enough money to cover these changes.
And we discussed this extensively last year at this time when the minimum wage, and we did anticipate it due to the changes in the laws.
Yep.
Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 30, vote to declare a 2005 Ford Econovan, VIN number 1FTNS24W85H64726 as surplus and approve that said vehicle be scrapped. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Town Manager.
Yeah, this was discussed at the Education and Human Services Committee. Councilor Lazo did go out and look at this vehicle to make sure that this should be scrapped. He thought that this was the right motion to bring forward. Him and his committee supported this.
Council Daniel just informed me that there's missing an A on the agenda item, so it should be HA 64726. So just reflect that for the minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 31, vote to declare the equipment from the decommissioned Mass Ave pump station as surplus. All equipment will be scrapped except the new 50 horsepower pump, which has an approximate purchase price of $5,000, which will be disposed of in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, Section 15. Is there a motion?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Town Manager?
Okay, I'm just looking at the chairman. We just discussed this in the Public Works Subcommittee. This particular piece of equipment cannot be used in any other station throughout the town. It was a recommendation of the DPW director to attempt to sell at least the motor. I believe it's within this pump, and I think all agreed that this made sense.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Councilor Nash, go ahead.
I'll throw out there, just for clarification, that indeed there are other items from within the pump station that are to be scrapped, including control valves, things of that nature. The pump is not something that we're able to use within our wastewater realm.
Correct, we had
Yep.
great discussion about that and good questions about that.
Thank you.
Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Agenda item 32. So there's two items on this. So I apologize. I had sent the language over to the manager's office, and I'm not sure if it got lost in the email. I thought we had it, and I missed it until Councilor Adams. When this item came up on playground equipment, if we so choose to accept this item, we would have to move to rescind our previous action on this. So I do have the language for that. So I guess what we'll do is vote to approve this, and if it's approved, then we'll vote to rescind our previous action, okay? All right? So item 32, vote to approve playground equipment under option 1, proposal from M.E. O'Brien and Sons Incorporated for $30,250 for a play structure approximately 30, and this doesn't make sense. This is not the right item. This is the old one. That was the motion to suspend, to rescind. I apologize.
You're right, it is.
You know what? Oh.
Put it on Thursday.
I could pull up the language
Oh,
from
is
the
this
night,
the,
but-
the one that, the new one, right?
So Jared's here to explain anything, so I hate to have him come back out Thursday night because he gave a good presentation the other night. So hold on one second.
It's, I think this is the new one here, MRC.
There it is, right? Pull this.
I apologize.
Number 11.
So we'll have to get this on. So motion to suspend the rules and add agenda item 32A, which will read, vote to recommend, vote to approve the Henry Street Revitalization Project for the proposal of MRC Recreation for the amount of $39,986.25. Is there a motion?
So move.
Suspend the rules to add the motion. All those in favor of suspending the rules and adding that item? Okay, thank you.
No, I'm opposed.
Okay. Okay, so the motion before us is to approve the Henry Street Revitalization Project of MRC Recreation in the amount of $39,986.25. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for adding this to the agenda. We had a great deal of discussion in subcommittee about this, and our Recreation Director did a great job in presenting this. I want to compliment them also because he went to the state bid list and went sort of above and beyond the call of duty, really went out and analyzed, 3 different quotes on this particular project and found one that was, not only was it improved equipment, but at a lower total cost to the town of Southbridge. We had budgeted $40,000 for this project. And really, this project's important because it provides a playground equipment, new playground equipment for a lot of children who use the Henry Street Park. So I think it's going to be a major improvement. And Jared went out of his way to find the best possible cost. We had thought we were going to need volunteers to actually build this and to put in concrete. As it turned out, he was able to get a deal that includes all construction, including the concrete work. So I think it's a real advantage. He's here to answer any questions, although, as I said, he did a great presentation. I think we believe, all of us, that providing recreational equipment to children in town is a important thing to do, and I think it's going to improve the community and the resources for the children. I think that's a great thing.
Council Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I'm not opposed to this. The only thing I am opposed to is this item not being correctly on the agenda for the public to view. So I would feel more comfortable, I won't vote on it tonight if it's voted on. I would feel more comfortable if it went on another agenda, just to give it that 48-hour open meeting law kind of vibe going, because, I mean, we have something totally opposite of what we are voting on in front of us. It's totally opposite, and I just don't feel comfortable, even with suspending the rules. I feel more comfortable if we gave it that 48 hours or even another 2 weeks. I mean, we're not going to be digging holes in the playground in, even a month's time. The ground's frozen, so I don't feel comfortable with
Okay.
this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I agree with the counselor. I'm not opposed to waiting until do it at the special town council meeting on Thursday evening.
Yeah,
If we have to do that.
and my intent was to suspend the rules just to add it, because if anybody had any questions on it tonight, because Mr. Latore is here, if you had any questions specifically to it, he could address the questions, so we don't have to take any action, but we certainly can discuss it if there's any other questions about it, but we won't take any action. But there's nothing wrong with us discussing it. Playground equipment is on the agenda, so if we don't want to take actions on the specific vendor, but if there's any questions of Jared this evening, he did give a great presentation at the special town council meeting, so if anybody has any questions tonight while the TV cameras are here, we can ask any questions. Councilor Adams?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to give kudos to Jared as well. I don't see a need for him coming back on Thursday. I know the town manager can probably give a good brief on the whole situation and why it possibly could be changing, but from our last vote. But I agree. You know, he did a great job, and I hate to have him come all the way out here and then have to come back on Thursday evening and do the same thing. And hopefully we get it right.
Yep. Mr. Town Manager?
So just to be clear, because I want everybody to understand this, particularly the public that's watching us, back a number of months ago, the town council voted to approve $40,000 for new playground equipment for the Henry Street Park. We had a vendor in mind. We had went out and got a quote from a quality vendor. It was close to 40 grand, but it did not include the concrete work and some other things. Jared, after that, went out and actually got some more quotes off of the state bid list. So all we're really doing tonight is, we had gave you a picture of what the playground would look like under the original proposal. Since we went and changed what the equipment would look like, we wanted to bring it back before council so they could see the change in the equipment design. But the benefit was the design hardly changed at all. It might have even changed for the benefit and a lower cost. So it's really good news for the citizens that we're going to get, we believe, more playground for a lower cost. So town council did have an opportunity to review the original proposal. Then Jared did a presentation of the 3 different options. And it really was important to try to compare apples to apples because the equipment is somewhat different. So we wanted you to see what the different proposals were, what was the quality, and why was Jared making a recommendation of the one that he picked. So that's what we're doing, voting tonight. We essentially had kind of already voted for this. It's just a matter of letting the public know it changed a little bit in terms of design. So just so people understand it, it's been something that has been discussed, and here we are again.
I partially agree with your summation there. This is a major change because we're going to a whole different vendor.
Yep.
So it's a substantial change, not just a change in scope of the project. So I'll entertain a motion to postpone till December 19th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of postponement? Unanimous, all present. I have moved 32 to make that 32B, so take a motion to take no action on that because we've already approved it, so it's on the agenda. We'll take no action.
moved.
All those in favor of taking no action? That's, Councilman Arquette, probably last. The agenda item that we have, 32, we've already taken action on it, so it's on our agenda, so we're not going to take any action. So the motion is to take no action on that item, okay? All those in favor of no action? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. I'll make sure that I get with Yvonne, that over to her. I'll send her an email tonight to make sure we have it correct. Item 33. Vote to ratify the host community agreement between the town of Southbridge and Green Meadows Farm LLC regarding the siting of a medical and adult use cultivation manufacturing facility in the town of Southbridge at 64 Mill Street, Assessors Map 34, Parcel 146. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you. I'm going to have our Economic Development Director talk more about this, or our planner, but I want to set something on the record for clarity. This contract or this host agreement was something that was negotiated between the town of Southbridge and Green Meadows to negotiate this. And this was a little unique, and I want to put that uniqueness on the table and on the public record for a specific reason. The state, under its law, and the Cannabis Control Commission, they basically work this as a 3% impact fee that's allowed on these type of projects on gross revenue. Now, because this is a cultivation company that's going to be providing that product to a retailer, it's very, very difficult to establish what gross revenue might be. We worked very hard, the two parties, the town and Green Meadows, to establish a formula or a way to calculate what we believe is what we'd be describing as gross revenue. We reached out to the Cannabis Control Commission, who politely told us that it's up for the town to decide, and there's no set requirement for how this is done. What we're told by the town attorney in this particular issue is to make sure that it was clear and on the record that both parties agreed to how we made this definition. We believe it's within the 3% of the gross revenue number. We spent a great deal of time trying to make this to be a reasonable and fair equation, I guess I would call it. It also provides for sort of a reanalysis of this equation on an annual basis to make sure that it is fair and equitable. The reason I'm putting this on the record is if the state ever looks to this, I want them to know that we reached out to our law firm for recommendations on this. We reached out to the Cannibal Control Commission, and the reason we're doing it the way we have is there's no really set in law kind of process for this. So again, I want to make sure that that is clearly on the record what we're doing, and if the chair would allow any other comments by our town planner, that would be, I think, appropriate.
I'm going to put a hold on this right now,
Okay.
because I am missing sections 3 and 4
I was going to ask that too.
of this.
There's a whole bunch of sections that are missing. It's every other page.
The copier didn't copy it correctly.
Yeah.
See the other page?
So I'm
Every
going
other
to
page is missing.
Sorry.
recess for 10 minutes. The town manager can get this corrected. We're in recess for 10 minutes.
Do anybody have let me see if I got the full copy.
Okay. So, call the meeting back to order. Mr. Town Manager?
Mr. Chairman, just because, again, this is something a little bit unique in the way we do this agreement, so I've asked Mr. Patton, who represents Green Meadows, just to come up and comment on the gross revenue piece, because I clearly want to have it on the record for if anyone questions this process in the future, I want to make sure it's documented on both sides. I want to say that one of the things, because of host agreements that are being looked at throughout the state, and so there's been some bad things happening in some other communities, we want to make it clear that there's no pressure being given to Green Meadows. This has really been a real partnership in this, and it is, a mutually beneficial relationship. And what they're agreeing to, frankly, the wording of that piece of the agreement actually came from them. So we want to make sure that it is understood that. So if you don't mind, I'd like to have Bob come up and just speak to that quickly so it's on the record.
Okay. Mr. Patton, welcome again.
I'm Bob Patton, CEO of Green Meadows Farm of 64 Mill Street here in Southbridge. And I do want to always thank the council for having us here and for receiving our application and for receiving our business into town. And indeed, as the town manager, San Angelo, has said, we worked full cooperation with the town to devise the proper language to make sure, as we believe strongly, and the town deservedly believes, that the town can capture its 3% of the wholesale intra-company revenue from our wholesale capacity at 64 Mill Street. We are completely concurrent with how it's been worked out. We look forward to revisiting it each year just to make sure it's fair on all parties. Again, totally mutually agreed upon and grateful that we've come to good terms and very happy to be so. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Councilor Steves?
Yeah, we discussed this at length at the last GenGov meeting and several other meetings before that. A couple of details that came out where we were talking about is, first off, the biggest changes are obviously in the section under Section 2, where they put in the calculations of how we're doing intra-company gross revenue, which is, just for clarification, is being treated as though it were 40% of the product's retail price sold to the public, so that it ends up being 1.2% of what would be the 3% ends up being 1.2% internally. However, they'll be paying 3% of those if they're actually selling it to some other company. And there were a couple of other minor changes in here, like the change of the title for section number 3 to annual charitable nonprofit contributions. We had originally, back in a previous session, we had talked about eliminating language that would allow for them to take a slight cut if they didn't get 7 days. That got eliminated, so that it's 3% across the board, regardless of how often they're open. And I know the planning board had no issues with them being open 7 days anyway. And I know during the course of the discussion, we talked a little bit about traffic and stuff like that, and traffic studies, and doing Councilor Marchetti had specifically talked about doing an impact study in the neighborhood. And I guess that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was done as part of the planning board process anyway. Although I haven't seen it. Let's see, we talked a little bit about them doing security 24/7. Although technically it's not required, they're probably going to start with having somebody, an actual watchman on the property, at least for 24/7 for a while, just to see how things work and if it ends up being necessary. they'll keep it. If not, they won't. But they also have cameras monitoring the facility all the time, which is legally required by CCC rules anyway. And the police will have access to those videos whenever they need them. They also have backup generators that can control their critical systems and what they call the checkerboard for the grow lights, so that the grow lights don't consume the entire facility's generator system, so that security cameras and stuff like that can still run. Let's see, the other issues that came up were when they were talking about the percentage of their sales to third parties. Bob mentioned that the priority is their own stores. They might end up selling, but they don't know at this point, to third parties. Let's see. They plan on revisiting the idea is that between us and them, we'll revisit the calculations annually, so that to make sure that they're balanced and that they're working right for both of us. And it was unanimously approved after extensive discussion. So.
All set, Council?
Yeah, I think so.
Council Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I did not make that meeting. I do apologize. But I guess I would have just brought up, once again, my concern with the smell of the marijuana. Tell me all you want that it's not going to smell. It is going to smell. It smells down there now, and that they have hemp. So I'm not saying you have hemp, somebody else, but I'm really concerned about that and the impact that it's going to have on the other businesses, or maybe even in the neighborhood. I know, I'm just driving on the Mass Pike. I go by, I don't know if they have to be inside facilities, but there's one certain part of the Mass Pike, kind of near Framingham and Westboro there, that just like reeks of marijuana. And if you're going to tell me, and that's every night, so if you're going to tell me that there's no smell, there's going to be a smell. So I'm just really concerned about the odor control for this, especially in such an old building. So, thank you.
Mr. Town Manager?
I don't know that I can completely alleviate your concerns, but I did want you to know there was a great deal of discussion over this in subcommittee, because it is a concern already over at that facility with the the hemp. I'm looking for the appropriate name for that. But they assured us that they were going to have better air handler controllers that would reduce the smell, and they feel that it'll be a huge difference compared to what's actually there. But the proof is in the pudding, so we'll have to wait and see as we deal with it. But they tell us they're going to great lengths to control that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Steves?
Well, just to add to that, if it ends up becoming an issue, of course, as the town, as the host community, we have the right to step in and say, hey, we want things to be changed under the law. So if it becomes an issue, we can do that.
I just want to say for the record, it's been a pleasure to work with Green Meadows over this whole process over the last year and a half, and I think they've been true to their word all the way through. And I don't see, I can't answer for Framingham. I don't even know if in Framingham, if there is a marijuana facility there that you're smelling. I don't doubt that you smell it, but I don't know what their processes are or what kind of facility it is. Like I said, Green Meadows and this organization has been very forthright and worked with us every step in the way, and it has been a great, I don't see anything that I wouldn't take them at their word at this time. They're very thorough in their working with us and our dealings with us. And the proof is in the pudding, and we'll see, and we'll hold them to it. But I don't see anything that would concern me that they wouldn't live up to the expectations that the town of Southbridge puts out to them in the planning process. Council Manor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I do agree. They have been a pleasure to work with, and they've been very honest and open, and they work very well with the community. I mean, and they can promise us the moon that it's not going to smell. I mean, but there's going to be some type of smell, and that's just and I know they're going to do everything in their power, and it's bad enough we have to smell the sewage. I mean, now we're going to smell the sewage of marijuana, I mean? So That's all.
I'd rather smell the marijuana.
Councilor Adams?
Not
Thank
me.
you, Mr. Chair, through you, just
I'd rather smell either.
a caveat, just we've done 3 host agreements with this company and kind of set the standard of where we're going to go from at this point in time, if any other companies come out here, to hopefully open up a business out here. So I do want to thank them for everything that they've done. I have looked at a lot of host agreements, and I said this during the subcommittee meeting, that there are other areas, other host agreements that we saw that some were very extravagant, over the top. And then there were some that surprised me because they didn't feel like there was an impact, which I believe there is on the town. So I just want to thank the company, the town council, the citizens, because this is a touchy subject all the way through, and those that, I just want to thank everybody that's up here for listening and moving this thing along, what they felt was right. So thank you very much.
Anything further? Seeing none. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Nash?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Look forward to working with you again throughout this process, and wish you a happy holidays and happy New Year. Thank you. Item 34, vote to approve submitting an application under the state's 43D streamlined permitting program to designate the 4 parcels of the Southbridge Innovation Center as a priority development. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Oh, well, I'll
Councilor.
throw out there, it was voted 5-0 in favor of. I'm not sure if the town manager wants to talk about this, or Rosemary, as far as the streamlining these 4 properties. Thank you.
I'll comment
Mr. Town
briefly.
Manager?
I'll comment briefly. I mean, one of the things that we do, this obviously takes a particular piece of property and designates in a way that allows some advantages for the state, particularly site location type of activities. But it really is important that we streamline. When someone comes to the town, a business in particular comes to the town looking for support of the town, looking to go through a process, we have set up a streamlined process where I have all different department heads, be it the building department, planning, economic development, health department, all working together to make sure that customers don't do the runaround and have to go to 5 different departments. So that's part of this, and I'll let Rosemary get into the more details.
Rosemary?
Yes, so this program has been around probably somewhere around 15 years or so. It's a program that was developed to change the perception in Massachusetts that we were very difficult, that we were not business friendly, and to help the communities that weren't.
Rosemary, can you move the
Sorry.
microphone? Thank you.
And to help the communities that were not doing permitting in a streamlined way to start doing that. So there were actually grants at one time, and it would pay for things like permitting software. It would pay for, the costs that the town might incur to hire someone who could be the point person if they didn't have enough personnel for permitting. But those grants no longer exist. However, the benefit of the town submitting these 4 parcels as a priority development site under this program is that this site will now be listed on a number of inventories for the state, different state agencies, so that it would be it would get a higher rating for various grants, like a MassWorks grant or other types of grants like that, because the town is promising it by making this designation that we will render a decision, yes or no, on permitting within 180 days of receiving a complete application from whoever the developer is or the applicant. Now, we certainly do render a decision within 180 days. And we have all of the things in place that are required, which is a permitting checklist, a person who is the point person for the permitting. There's a few others that are listed on that application, but they're all in place. So we're not making a promise that we can't keep. It also there is a quasi-public agency that helps to market sites in the state. They're called Mass Econ, and developers go to them. They're used specifically in Massachusetts, and so they get a list of all the sites that have been designated by the individual communities. So this gives this site a little bit of a higher profile, so it's, you know, it's really kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of a win-win.
Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question on number 6 on page 3. I have in my notes from our meeting that where it says, has the municipality applied for or received other state grants for the site? Does the municipality plan on all that? Didn't we say that this had to be changed?
Yes, and I have changed that on the new copy. So the new copy reads, town applied to the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for a PARC grant, park grant, in 2017 to create a 1.3 acre park along the Quinnebog River on a portion of vacant land, and I put the parcel ID number. The town was awarded, but the town council decided not to go forward with the project, and the grant was never received. And then I said no grants are planned for submission at this time. So I modified it to reflect that.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you. Councilor Mann?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So why don't we see that in our packet?
Because that was the original one that went to the P&D subcommittee
But
meeting.
we just went through this with the playground equipment. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
we need to have, and the host agreement, we need to have,
Well, the host agreement was
I
completed.
get- yeah.
A couple of us
Yeah.
did get it, so that
Usually,
was a copier error.
But-
Yvonne likes to have, you know, whatever the paperwork that was provided to the P&D subcommittee meeting, that will be what is provided to the town council. And I modified, this has been modified since then. So, I mean, that's the only thing that's been changed.
but we should have a copy of that.
Okay, I can give it to you right now, and you can pass it along and take a look at it.
Yeah, if you just pass it around, just so we make sure that we can see it.
I feel comfortable. I mean, there's a change on it, so. And it should, how long was, when did you make that change?
Probably Friday.
So there was enough time for us town councilors to get it? So,
Well, packets went out Thursday night.
yeah, but
So,
we have email.
I'm answering your question. Packets went out Thursday night. Perhaps they could have gone out in an email. So, this is one of the issues we have when we have subcommittee meetings that are so close to when our packets have to go out, that we will work on throughout the next 6 months, because it happens too often where we try to have meetings right above and things change and then they're caught in the matter. I'm not opposed to ratifying this evening because the changes are correct based on our conversation. Councilor Marquetti?
This is to approve a streamlining process. I think that the part that you're talking about there has to do with what goes to the state that does this. This doesn't really, we're not voting on that. That was
Right.
just something.
It has nothing to do with.
This has to do with streamlining, which isn't a
Right.
bad thing, to streamline the process. Thank you.
It's part of the background information about the site. And,
Correct.
you know, it's kind of a moot point because we didn't even, we never actually received the grant funds.
Councilor Steves?
Yeah, two quick questions. One is, given the fact that one's formal, that the fact that our agenda item doesn't specifically cite the exact properties that we're putting into this program, should we specifically have it state that? And secondly,
I didn't hear you, Gus, I'm
said
sorry.
state
I'm
the
just saying,
four-
should we specifically state which parcels we're putting into this program? Because it just states that to designate the 4 parcels of
It
the
has a-
Innovation Center.
Oh, you mean in your motion?
Yeah.
Oh, that's up to you. I
I'm just
don't know.
curious if we should have to do that. And secondly,
It's in the application and but I can give you you have
we have them in the paperwork, yeah. And I was curious, does this actually cover the entire parcel that we
There's
consider the
4
AO complex?
parcels that
Yeah.
were on
I
the
mean, all 4
applica-
of them. Does that?
So-
Could you let her answer your question and not go
Yeah.
back and forth, please?
Okay.
I appreciate
So
it.
there's 4 parcels that the property owner has requested
Right.
to be part of this, and so that's what's in the application.
Okay. It doesn't cover the entire AO complex, just those 4. There's more parcels in the AO
That
complex
he
than
owns?
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
No. Okay. So it is the entire complex then, effectively.
Well, it's all of the manufacturing buildings.
Yeah.
It's the hotel and conference center, which is a separate parcel.
Yeah.
There's the grassy area and along the river in the front.
Right.
And then there's 2 other odd-shaped parcels. I think that encompasses all of the land that he owns.
Eric is shaking his head yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And the other question I had was also relevant to item number 6. Back at the subcommittee, I asked you if you could take a look at whether or not conservation ever
Right.
had to do any grant writing
And,
regarding Roos Brook.
Right, and I did look at that, and so there was not a grant. There was contamination
Right.
that emanated from a site, was heavy metals.
Right.
Fairly far east of any of the buildings, even east of where the buses are parked.
Okay.
So there was some contamination that came from there and went into the brook. It was reported to DEP, and it was capped,
Yes, it was.
but there was no grant to
Okay.
do it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. You got your copy back that you need on that?
Sure, you can,
I've actually
I
given
don't
it
need
to
it, I
Mary.
mean, I
Okay,
should
Mary
just
has
print
it.
off more.
Thank you, Counsel. Item 35. Vote to approve an amendment to the extended contract with Nunes Company to May 31st, 2020 to complete Phase 2 of the Central Street parking lot upgrade project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Counselor Adams?
Mr. Chair, through you, this was also through the P&D subcommittee, 4-1 vote in favor of. I wouldn't make a motion to amend this to state, vote to approve change order number 1, extend contract with Nunez Company to May 31st, 2020. Complete Phase 2 of the Central Street parking lot upgrade project. And I say that because that is what we voted on, what we recommended.
And that was reflected too.
That's all I have.
Thank you. So there's a motion to amend.
Second.
Motion to amend.
Second. All those in favor of the amendment? Thank you. Discussion on that as amended? Anything from you, Rosemary, on this?
So this is Phase 2 of the Central Street parking lot. The first time the department, the engineer that the department hired to handle this, the first time they went out to bid for this project, we only received 1 bid, and it was $88,000 more than the budgeted amount. So GCG, the engineering firm, strategized with the CDBG coordinator and myself and decided to pull out, make that 1 phase into 2 phases to separate out kind of like elements because he thought that we'd have a better chance of having more bids and more reasonable bids. So Phase 2 became just what we were calling flat work, but granite curbing, custom granite curbing, poured concrete for the sidewalk and public space, and light fixtures in the parking lot. So that's Phase 2. And the first time we went out to bid, that also included landscaping and street furniture. So that new Phase 2 went back out to bid in, I believe it was August. I think it went out for about 3 or 4 weeks. We wanted to give it enough time to get adequate bids. There was a delay once. We got 3 good bids. The lowest was with Nunez Companies from, I always say Palmer. I know it's not Palmer. It's the town. Ludlow. Their references were checked by GCG, and they were very good references. So they eventually provided a notice of delay to us because the very first item that they had to purchase was the custom granite curbing, and that would take about 45 days to be fabricated and to be delivered on site, and really nothing else could be done until that was installed. So they started seeing that that was going to bring us close to the cold weather, so they gave us a heads up with a notice to delay. We still kept our fingers crossed, hoping maybe we would have a mild December. The other delay was that there were several types and limits of insurance that we were requiring in our bid document. When we selected Nunez, the insurance that they provided to us, the certificate was not adequate, and we had to go back and forth with them a few different times. So that delayed this by about 3 or 4 weeks, believe it or not. And then by the time we got that is when we had the contract fully executed that had been approved by the town council. And then the notice to proceed was provided on October 17th. That's when they ordered the granite curbing. And then, so they pretty quickly thought, well, the pouring of the concrete is certainly not going to happen until the spring, but at least we'll get the granite curbing in. And then we had about 10 inches of snow and multiple days in a row where it was cold. So then we had a conference call that included Heather Blakely, our DPW director, our engineer, my department, and the engineering firm. And it was recommended to us by the experts, DPW director and our engineer, that if we went ahead and installed the granite curbing now, it would be more expensive because the ground was frozen, and we'd have to remove a lot of that soil and replace it with granite, and then there would have to be, to keep the ground stable when there's thawing in the spring, and then there would have to be blankets, these industrial blankets and heaters. And even with all of that, there was no guarantee that this end product would come out correctly. So it was recommended to us that, well, basically someone used the word ludicrous, for us to go ahead and install this granite curbing at this time. So all of Phase 2 was therefore delayed until the spring. So that's why, and their contract was going to expire, if I'm not mistaken, January 7th of 2020. So now what we'd like to do is extend their contract to May 31st of 2020.
Any questions? Councilman Catrona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, we did have extensive discussion in subcommittee in reference to this, and I just want to add that I think it took far too long to obtain an insurance certificate. And
I agree.
We needed to be, as a town, more aggressive contacting them for a simple certificate. So as a town, we own some of that delay because we didn't go forward in contacting them. And I just wanted to make that known. We did have that discussion in subcommittee. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Actually, we were probably, between Peg Dean, the CDBG coordinator, and myself, we probably had at least a dozen emails going back and forth with the owner, the engineering firm, calling them. I think I sent, because Chair Jovian had asked, what was happening in that timeline from the time it got approved by Town Council on September 9th and October 17th when we gave a notice to proceed. So I tried to sum it up, but I'm sure it was not fun reading, but I provided a timeline of every single conversation and phone call and email that had happened. And it was it's tedious to read it. It was tedious to do it. So I can assure you.
Who did you send that to, Rosemary? Because I didn't get a copy of that.
I sent it to the town manager.
Okay, all right.
And that was going to be forwarded, but
I would like to have seen it.
there were a number, there's not much more detail beyond what I'm saying, that there was, we were feeling the pressure more than anyone, I can assure you, because we were very nervous about that the CDBG, as you've seen in your biweekly reports, that our grant, if we didn't spend 80% of it, we could have our grant for fiscal year 20 decreased. So this was absolutely at the top of our priority list, trying to get this insurance certificate. We kept getting it in dribs, and we got it initially, and the limits weren't correct. Then we got it again, and there was something else missing. And we were constantly, we had 2 insurance experts that we were in communication with to read what we had in our bid document and read what the certificate said and compare it and tell us what was missing. And it was very frustrating for us as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments, Counselor. You know, and I know I made a big, comments about this because of the 5 weeks in between, And the reason for that was, if you go back to last year, there was a lot of conversation about why these contracts should come to town council and how it delays the project and there's monies out there. And there was a lot of conversation through council about how do we do this. And your department and PEG, we talked about it and we said, hey, make sure that the town knows that a bid is going out, so plan accordingly. So a bid's going out on this date, the bid's coming in on another date, you're going to have your opening, contact whoever the council is through the town manager for that appropriate subcommittee, set up that subcommittee meeting for that week or immediately and get it approved through the vetting through that and a council. And I looked at that, and that was all done to that point because PEG put out a very good schedule to us that said, hey, just like we asked, all those dates, target dates, and when I look at it, you say, okay, we went out to bid on August 14th. This town council awarded and allowed the project to proceed in the contract. We approved the contract on September 9th. That's pretty good. Bid documents out, process good, and something along the way.
Yeah.
And I understand there's issues, but I look forward to seeing that email as to the communications that went back and forth.
Okay.
And it's time for us to get this project moving and done because it's taking well too long on that project itself.
I agree.
Yeah. So, any further discussion? All those in favor as amended? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Thank you. Vote to ratify the agreement between the town and Pablo Santiago for a deferred payment loan of $29,100 under the CDBG Commercial Rehabilitation Program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Council Adams?
Just, thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Again, this went through the Subcommittee Planning and Development, 4-1 in favor of. And I'll let Town Manager speak on this.
Town Manager?
I could speak on this, but I'm going to defer to you on this. Rosemary, you've been working on this and you have more details, so I'm going to have you go forward with it.
Okay, so this was part of the FY18 CDBG grant that came before the town council. It was one of the activities that we applied for. We applied for $44,000 out of $825,000. So you can see it was a small portion of the overall grant. So this, the way this is handled is we solicit the, business owners, commercial building owners within the slum and blight target areas, and we explain the program, and we ask if if individuals are interested in applying. So this particular application came from Pablo Santiago, who is the owner of 44 Hamilton Street. He applied for facade improvement. That building, especially in light of all of the improvements being done on the parking lot behind it, you could almost say that there are 2 facades, one that faces the parking lot and one that faces the street, and then the 2 sides are, pretty prominent, pretty visible as well. So a architect design person looked at that building and came up with a design and a budget for what it would cost. And Peg Dean went out to get 3 bids, didn't receive any. Within a couple of days after the deadline, another bid was received. She consulted with the Attorney General to see if it was okay to accept that bid, and they said it was, since we hadn't received any other bid, and it was within the amount of money that we had. What you have before you is the agreement between the town and Pablo Santiago, and this is really a loan agreement, so it's a deferred payment loan. So if you look at the section of it where it speaks, basically it states that for every year that that business stays there, more of the loan will be forgiven. And the bid that was received, that individual, which I believe you have part of that as well, that agreement will be between Pablo, the owner of the building, and that contractor. And the way the payments will be made, and that's, I don't know if you saw, if this was, I think, I did send additional materials on this that hopefully Yvonne did get to you. It's attachment B, payment procedure and schedule, because I know that there are concerns, as there should be, about grant money being paid and work not getting done. But the way this works is, so first of all, the owner of the building is responsible for 25% of this, and the grant will pay for 75%, and that's how the program has worked in this department for the last several years. So what happens is the property owner provides 25% of the project cost up front, and our department sets up an escrow account that's used for to supplement the payments that are made to the contractor. The contractor notifies the town when approximately 50% of the work is done. And then our inspector will go out and take a look at it and report back to us. And if it is done, if all the work that they're indicating is done, we will pay for that work. And then when it's 90, and each time there will be money taken out of the escrow account, so that all the way through, the owner of the building is paying 25% of this. And then the next time would be the 90% point. It gets inspected again, we pay the appropriate amount, and then the completion, again, the inspector will look at it to make sure it's all completed, and then hopefully we'll close it out, and it will be a much nicer looking building on that corner.
Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple comments. We talked extensively if this should even come up to the town council or not. This was something because of what type of loan this was, or contract this was, but it was agreed upon by the majority that it should come up to the town council for a vote. I do want to thank you for providing us with the agreement between the contractor and Mr. Santiago. I did have a couple questions, though. Mr. Santiago, do you have a copy of, this is something that was asked about, the actual signature from, because we don't have a copy of that here in our packet.
You don't have his the signed version?
I, the property owner, understand.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I do have the signature here. I can pass around.
So you do have it signed?
I trust you. I
It's
just,
in the original, I got the
I
original.
do have the signature.
No, that's the
I apologize.
non-collusion affidavit.
Yeah, but that should be part, if that's signed, everything should be
Which
signed.
contract are you looking at? The one between
Not signed.
the contractor and Mr. Santiago?
He signed parts.
Oh, okay.
neither one do we have or sign.
Okay,
My
so,
copy's not signed either, and I should
okay,
have the
so
original.
I will, do you want me to just give you the last page, or how would you like me to do it?
No, do you have
I
it
trust
signed?
if it's signed. I just want to make sure it's
You have
signed.
everything signed?
Well, the property owner's signature is on this agreement between the town and the...
Okay.
Yvonne should have a copy of that original, so make sure that she has a copy of the original signed.
Okay. Yeah.
And the other,
Well, then, we're not going to be releasing it until you sign it.
Right.
okay. And then will they have, on here, it says 40 days. That's enough time during the winter time? They have 40 days to knock this out?
Can you speak into the mic, though?
Sorry.
It's hard to hear.
One thing
I'm
that says
very
in the
sorry.
contract says
No,
40.
the cable is having a hard time.
Sorry.
Oh, I don't know if it's me, sorry.
What was the question again?
So,
Sorry.
In the contract, it says 40 days.
Oh, right, so
enough time?
we may need to, extend that, but we're just very aware that this needs to be done in a timely way, because we do have an extension on the grant to June 30th. This isn't the same kind of work as, the parking lot's not concrete being poured. So we may have to extend it if they're not complete in that time. But it has to be done by the end of when the contract with the state is terminating.
Thank you, Rosemary. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion? Councilman Marquetti?
I just wanted to say thank you for the additional information
Oh, okay.
that you
I didn't
provided.
hear that.
I just wanted to thank her for providing the additional information tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Councilman Marquetti, I don't mean to give you a hard time. You know what happens
know.
sometimes is when you speak, you turn your head to speak to the speaker, and it kind of goes off in that direction.
I'll try to remember.
Thank you, thank you. I am not giving you a hard time at all.
No, that's fine.
I give Council Steves more of a hard time than anybody, so.
Bring it
Council
on.
Steves?
I've been
Bring
here
it on.
longer, I probably deserve it. Anyway, a couple of quick questions. One is, if you think that they won't be able to do this rehab work within the 40 days of the contract, should we change that particular line of the contract to say 60 days? So that
So remember, this
we don't have to come back and change the contract later?
So remember, this contract that you're talking about, I think, is because you have two contracts, right? You
Well,
have-
I'm referring to the one with Mr. Santiago.
Right, and then there's another one with Mr. Santiago and the contractor.
Yeah, okay.
So
We're
the one that
approving the one with Mr. Santiago, though.
the one that we're
directly.
approving tonight is the one between the town and Mr. Santiago.
Yes, right.
The contractor's contract is just with the property owner?
Right, exactly. I'm referring to Section 4 of the contract with Mr. Santiago, time of performance.
Section 4?
Yeah, where it states it's what Dave stated a few
Property
minutes ago,
owner.
within 40 days.
Yes, I see
Should we
it.
change that to
Right,
say
so-
60 days or something?
So, yes, we can change that. I mean, is that something you want to change tonight?
I'm just suggesting that should we, if we know it's likely to not get done in that time frame, but as long as it does get done before the end of this fiscal year, that's what the requirement is from CDBG, right?
Right.
I'm just throwing it out there to see what you guys think about that. Because otherwise, if we have to change it, it would have to come back to us again, and the whole time-consuming process. If we know it's likely to be delayed, why don't we just do it now and get it over with?
I'm not opposed. Councilman, did you have a follow-up question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I agree with Councilor Steves. I mean, it should be, because if this is being done, like signed 40 days, so a month and 10 days from now, we're like in January.
Right.
I think even 60 days is too short.
90 days?
Because now we're getting into the dead of winter.
Right.
I mean, by Thursday, we're supposed to be sub-zero temperatures. So, I think maybe like 90 or 120 days or something, like go more towards the spring.
I apologize, Rosemary. I should have brought this up earlier.
No, it's a good point, though. It's great to hash this out now so that we don't come back knowing that there's weather, and it has to be done by the end of the fiscal year. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And the fiscal year being?
June 30th, same as the
Same as ours,
town.
not a federal fiscal year. I agree. Given work in the winter and that, I would say, by 120 days, we'd give it by April. I mean, it's really on his benefit. The town is not obligated with anything else. We're not losing
Right.
anything.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
you want to make a
I
motion
will
to
make a
amend it
motion
to?
Okay, I'll make a motion then to amend it to 120 days. It's fine with me.
Yeah, I guess that would be okay. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's just cutting it a little. I think I would prefer,
So should we just
by the
designate
end
a
of
specific
April?
date then?
Well, the
So
end of April is
30th
120 days.
okay, that's 3 months, sorry.
Yeah, it's January, February, March.
Yeah.
March would be by April 1st,
Right, you're right.
probably. So,
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
and given it's the holiday season, he's going to lose 2 weeks right off the bat, off the holiday,
Yeah,
by the time
that's
you
fine.
sign it and
That-
everything like
that
that.
makes
So-
sense.
Nobody's going to do any work now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So,
And
Council Manna?
if I may, they're doing the siding too of the outside of the building. They're doing work on the outside of the building.
Yes, I mean, I'd have to look at
So,
the,
I mean, that stuff can't be done in the dead of winter. So,
well,
Some
I've
have done
seen
it in
some
winter.
surprising
Yeah.
things.
I
See,
think 120 days is more than reasonable.
Yeah, that's fine.
okay.
All right, so there's a motion and a second to allow that agreement to be changed to 120 days. Okay. Anything further? All those in favor as amended?
Of the amendment.
In favor of the amendment, yes, amendment. Okay. Any further discussion on this agreement as amended? Council
I have one
Steves?
quick question also. It's, well, related is, okay, so that leaves $15,000 in the commercial rehab program. What's that being used for?
I'm sorry, just repeat
Okay,
that.
if we approve this agreement, there'll be about 15 grand left in the commercial rehab program. What's that being used for?
Right. What is it being used for? Is
Yes.
that what you asked?
Is it actually already allocated?
It will be used for
things?
signage, because
It
we
is.
have people in the pipeline, applications in the pipeline.
We do.
So it'll
Okay.
be used for probably a couple of commercial signs. We'll have to see what the quotes are for, other entities.
Okay. So you'll get that changed up to town manager so it can be signed by
Yes.
the end of the week?
Oh, before then, yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Given vacations and everything, town
Yep.
manager out, so, okay.
definitely.
All those in favor as amended? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Council's forum. Council Manna?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, throw a curveball at you, right? You
Yeah,
weren't
you
ready.
did. Are we done
Yep.
talking? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Let's see. Through you to the town manager, 80 Hamilton Street. Who takes care of the property now that the building is down? I had
In terms of making sure that
the mowing and stuff,
So
keeping it neat, so
the
no.
question is, that, and I'd have to check, if the owner still owns it and we took down the building and it's still owned by the property owner, then the property owner would still be responsible for it. If we took the building through the foreclosure, and I just don't remember off the top of my head, we would then be responsible for it. I
Okay.
just don't remember
So
which one it is.
could
on
we
that one.
find out for like when it comes in the spring, because I guess the grass was growing pretty high before the snow and everything. So we want to make sure that, I mean, we're taking down the blight. We should make, we're trying to make that area, we're trying to beautify it. So, and it only helps the businesses in that area too.
Councilman, before you go, could you get an email out to Council and Manager to say who owns that property by the end of the week so that we know? And then whatever we have to do further on, but let's find out who owns it and we can get an
Okay.
answer to you. Is that okay?
That's fine, yep.
Yeah, no
Okay,
problem.
thank you. And I guess I'm just going to say, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, be responsible, don't drink and drive, don't smoke pot and drive, be respectful to our law enforcement and the first responders and everyone out there. And we do have a snow event tomorrow that's going to be taking place with snow and freezing rain and stuff. So just watch out for your elderly neighbors and make sure that you're shoveling your walkways in a timely manner. According to the bylaws, I believe you have 24 hours. If you have more than like 2 or 3 inches of snow, I forget how many inches. And what else? There was something else. I don't know. Oh, yeah, and we are to be getting some sub-zero temperatures, so if we really could, make sure that we keep an eye on if we have elderly neighbors or something, just to keep an eye on them. And that's all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And I did get a message during the meeting that school has been canceled for tomorrow, so that has been canceled. All schools in the town of Southbridge have been canceled for tomorrow. Council Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just be brief. Again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, Happy Solstice, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate out there. And that's all I have.
All right. Council Nash?
Thank you. Councilor Manna stole my thunder. But I will clarify that the sidewalk bylaw actually calls for a width of 36 inches upon any sidewalk in front of an owner's property.
You're speaking to my, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, can't hear you.
That's weird. 36-inch width in your sidewalk in front of your home or your property, and you have to have it done within 12 hours upon the cessation of any storm, the police department does ticket. I encourage them to continue doing it. I drive around after a snowstorm, and yeah, I'm just a member of this town council, but it drives me nuts when I see kids walking in the road, and I see it every snowstorm when I am home. So please make sure you do what you can, and everything else that Councilor Manna said, take care of your neighbors. One more thing that I have noticed a little bit, I'm a dog owner now. I see dog litter. We do have a dog litter bylaw, and I would suggest that if you're not familiar with it, read it. The town code of bylaws is on the town webpage. It is on the town clerk's section. Please take a look. It's 6-203 for dog litter. Pick up the stuff. And I too want to extend the sentiment, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you for our first 6 months of fiscal year 2020 to my colleagues here at Town Council and all members of the town manager staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Catrona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. Just a couple things. I did have the pleasure last week of attending the Harrington Hospital Festival. It was a wonderful evening. They hosted a tent outside with kids' crafts and music, cookies, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. Thanks to the Harrington staff for donating their time and resources, and of course for all the kids that came out and participated. It was a wonderful evening. I too want to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and also thank you to Ms. Johnson for getting involved. It was wonderful to see her this evening with the chief, and I think we should see that a little more often. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, that's all.
Thank you. Councilor Marquetti?
Thank you. I did hear from a constituent who was asking about a car that's parked on the sidewalk at the corner of Elm Street and Everett Street, in front of the old Andy's Meat. The car parks right on the sidewalk. Sometimes they're having something going on there, and they're blocking the sidewalk. Second of all, I watched the school committee meeting the other night, and apparently the receiver has not been attending their meetings, and some of them are quite upset about it. So I would request that the receiver come to the next regular town council meeting and address the town council and the town and let us know what's going on with the schools and how things are going. And that way, if he makes a presentation, that is an agenda item, and residents can ask him questions, and so can school committee members. So I would appreciate it if the receiver came to the next regular town council meeting. Doesn't have to be Thursday. It can be the next regular, what is in January is our next regular meeting?
January, yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
I would request it, please. Appreciate it. And I would just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and please drive safe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I will reach out to the receiver to have him, if he can't make the first one meeting in January, I'll make sure that he can be here to talk about whatever,
The state of the
an
schools.
update in the state of the schools,
Okay.
to the whole council. And I know we are still trying to pursue having a meeting with the receiver and the Commissioner of Education to come to town to talk about the school's status as a receiver. It might be a good idea or opportunity for him to update the council as to the renewal of the turnaround plan. Yes, the turnaround plan. They just renewed it for another 3-year cycle. So be a good opportunity for him to update us and talk about some of those issues. And I know he's very amenable to working with the council and coming before us. So we'll make sure that happens. But I will schedule it out. Like I said, if I can't get him for the first meeting, it'll be this, it's very soon on a
Thank
short
you.
schedule. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to give a special shout out to my recording clerk, who's doing a banner job for us. It gets complicated up here sometimes, and the minutes reflect everything that's coming out, and she really does a marvelous job for us. So I'd like to say thank you for the work that you do. I'd like to wish the town happy holidays, Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, be safe, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, the next regularly scheduled meeting of the council is all the way in January, on Monday, January 13th, in the year 2020, at 7 p.m. here in council chambers.
Thank you, and I'll see all the councils Thursday evening at 6 PM.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Thank you. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.